If she doesn't make it, call me after. I'm not signing anything right now. That was my mother's voice, cold and annoyed, coming through the hospital speakerphone like background noise in my own death. I was 16, strapped to a gurney under blinding ER lights, blood in my hair, metal in my mouth, and a pressure in my chest so heavy I couldn't tell if I was breathing or just pretending. A nurse held my phone near my face so my mom could see me. Another nurse kept squeezing my hand like she could keep me on this side of the room by force. "Ma'am," the trauma surgeon said. "Fast and urgent. Your daughter has internal bleeding and a shattered pelvis. She needs emergency surgery within the hour." On the other end, I heard soft music, the faint burble of a fountain, someone laughing like they were at brunch. My mother sighed like she'd been asked to move her car. "We're in the middle of a treatment. I'm not driving back downtown for paperwork." My little sister giggled in the background. Then I heard the unmistakable click of a screenshot. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, "Mom, please." I wanted to remind her I was her child. But I couldn't talk. I could barely move. The world narrowed to sounds and light, and the sickening realization that the person who was supposed to save me was choosing convenience instead. The call ended. For a second, the whole trauma bay went quiet. Like even the machines were offended. "Get that documented," someone muttered. The nurse's eyes were wet. "I'm so sorry," she whispered to me. "We're calling your next emergency contact." Next emergency contact. That was when I remembered the only adult who never treated me like an inconvenience. My granddad, Ray Dawson, retired state trooper, grilled hot dogs in the rain, fixed my bike chain with the patience of a saint, the man who always showed up, even when my mother didn't. I'd been coming home from a huge family party outside Savannah, the kind with long tables, sweet tea, cousins everywhere, and my mom smiling for photos like she was Mother of the Year. I left early because I overheard her planning a mother-daughter spa weekend with my sister. Like I was an afterthought that didn't require scheduling, driving north on I-95. A storm rolled in fast. Sheets of rain hitting my windshield so hard the wipers couldn't keep up. Traffic slowed, then bunched. Then suddenly everything went wrong. A truck jackknifed. Headlights smeared into white streaks. My car spun and slammed so hard the sound disappeared into pure shock. Now I was here, in the ER. And my mother had just refused to save me. When the hospital finally reached Grandpa Ray, he didn't ask questions. He didn't negotiate. He just said, "Tell me where she is." And 30 minutes later, he burst through the doors, still wearing his work boots, rainwater dripping off his jacket. He signed every consent form with a shaking hand. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "I've got you. Baby girl. I'm right here." Then the world went dark again. 18 days later, when I finally opened my eyes, I was so weak I could barely lift my head. The room smelled like antiseptic and plastic. My throat burned. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. At the foot of my bed, a whiteboard listed my name, my meds, my vital checks, and one line that didn't make sense: Legal Guardian Ray Dawson. My mother's name was gone. Before I keep going, thank you for being here with me. If this beginning hits something tender in your own life, I truly appreciate you. A like, a comment, a share, or a subscribe helps more than you know. And I read your words with real gratitude. When I woke up, the first thing I felt wasn't pain. It was absence. Not the kind you can name easily. Not an empty chair or a quiet house. It was the absence of a mother who should have been there. even if she didn't know what to say. My room was full of machines, nurses, and my granddad's worn leather jacket draped over the chair like a promise. But my mother wasn't there. I blinked at the whiteboard again. Legal guardian Ray Dawson. I tried to swallow, and it burned. My pelvis felt like it had been replaced with broken glass. A nurse noticed my eyes open and rushed over, her face softening. "Hey, sweetheart," she said. "You're back with us." I wanted to ask where my mom was, but my voice came out as a thin rasp. The nurse leaned closer. "Don't talk yet," she whispered. "Just breathe." Grandpa Ray came in an hour later with coffee in one hand and a stack of papers in the other. He tried to smile, but his eyes were red around the edges like he'd been rubbing them raw. "You scared the hell out of me," he said, sitting down and taking my hand carefully, like I might shatter again. I stared at him, then at the papers. He saw my eyes move and exhaled. "Your mama didn't sign," he said quietly. "The doctors needed consent. She refused. So I did what I had to do." I tried to shake my head, but even that hurt. "How?" I rasped. He looked down at our joined hands. "Emergency temporary guardianship." Hospital social worker helped. Judge signed off. "It's legal." The room went quiet in a way that made my skin prickle. A judge, a guardian, words that belonged to other families, other tragedies. Not mine. But there it was on the board, like a label stuck to my life. "Did she come at all?" I asked. The words scraping out of me. Grandpa Ray's jaw tightened. "She called once," he said. "Asked if you were awake yet, then asked if the insurance would cover everything." I felt something sink in my chest, heavy and slow. Not, "Are you okay?" I whispered. Not, "I'm sorry." He shook his head. "No. Baby girl." The next days blurred into pain meds and physical therapy. Learning how to sit up. Learning how to stand without my legs buckling. Learning how to walk a few steps with a walker while my face burned with tears I refused to let fall in front of strangers. And every day, Grandpa Ray showed up. He brought clean clothes, my favorite shampoo, and a small notebook where he wrote down every medication change and every doctor's name. He learned the language of my injuries like it was his job. He argued with billing. He held my hand when the nightmares came. But the absence stayed. Sometimes a nurse would ask casually, "Your mom coming later," and my throat would close. Sometimes the social worker would glance at the door like she expected a dramatic entrance, and I'd just lie there, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the tiny holes like they were a way to keep from falling apart. 2 weeks into rehab, my mother finally appeared. Not rushing, not breathless, not terrified. She walked in wearing sunglasses indoors, holding my little sister's hand like they were at a mall. My sister looked at me with wide eyes, then at my walker, then away. My mother took in the room. The machines, the paperwork on the tray table, and her mouth tightened like she'd found a mess she didn't want to clean. "So," she said, voice clipped, "I hear Dad made himself your guardian." Grandpa Ray stood slowly. "I did what you refused to do." My mother's smile was sharp. "Don't be dramatic. I was busy. You know I don't do hospitals." I stared at her, trying to find my own mother in that face, and all I saw was annoyance. Then she looked at the whiteboard and scoffed. "We'll fix that. This is temporary." Grandpa Ray's voice turned dangerously calm. "No," he said. "It isn't." My mother blinked. "Excuse me." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a stamped document. Court order, he said. Until you can prove you're fit to make medical decisions, I'm the guardian. My mother's eyes widened, and for the first time since my accident, I saw something real on her face. Not love, not fear for me, fear of losing control. And I understood then, lying there with my body stitched back together by strangers, that the crash wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. The worst thing was realizing my mother would rather lose me than be inconvenienced by saving me. The first time I left the rehab facility, it wasn't for fun. It was for proof. Proof to myself that the world still existed outside the beige walls and the smell of disinfectant. Grandpa Ray drove me to the small Saturday morning community pancake breakfast at the fire station in Pooler. The kind of local event where kids run around in oversized hoodies. Volunteers flip pancakes on griddles. And everyone knows everyone's business before the coffee cools. He said it would be good for me. Fresh air. Normal noise. A reason to sit in a room that wasn't a hospital. I wore loose sweatpants and a hoodie that hid the bruises. My walker clicked softly across the concrete. Every step felt like a negotiation between pain and pride. People smiled at me in that cautious way they do when they've heard you were hurt but don't know what to say. Then I saw my mother. She was near the donation jar, laughing with two women from church. Hair, perfect. Nails, perfect. My little sister beside her in a matching dress like they were at family photos instead of a fire station fundraiser. My stomach tightened so hard it felt like I'd swallowed a fist. Grandpa Ray's hand moved to my back, steadying me. "We can leave," he murmured. "No," I whispered. "Not yet." I didn't know why I stayed. Maybe a small part of me still wanted her to look at me and remember she was my mother. Maybe I wanted a miracle. She turned and saw me. Her smile didn't soften. It sharpened. "Well," she said loudly. Loud enough for the tables around us to turn. "Look who decided to show up." The room shifted. Forks paused. Conversations thinned. I tried to keep my voice calm. "Hi, Mom." She walked toward me like she was approaching a problem she couldn't believe existed. Then she looked at my walker, made a face, and said, "You're still doing this." My cheeks burned. "Doing what?" "This whole fragile act." She replied, "People are starting to talk. They think I abandoned you." Grandpa Ray's voice turned hard. "You did." She ignored him and looked around at the crowd like she was gathering her witnesses. "He's been filling your head," she said, nodding at my granddad, "telling you I didn't care, telling you I refused surgery." That's not how it happened. I felt my heart thud once. Heavy. "It is how it happened." My mother's eyes flashed. "Don't lie in public." Brielle. Public. That word landed like a chain. A woman from the church ladies group stepped closer, curiosity shining in her eyes. A firefighter at the griddle pretended not to listen, but his body angled toward us. My mother raised her voice higher. "Sweet and wounded. I was trying to make sure the doctors didn't rush you into something unnecessary. I'm your mother." I was being careful. Grandpa Ray's jaw clenched. Careful doesn't sound like... "Call me after if she doesn't make it." My mother went stiff. "How dare you say that?" Then she did the thing that gutted me. She turned to the crowd and laughed. Light and dismissive. "He's exaggerating. He's always been dramatic. He wants to play hero. He even convinced the hospital to put him as guardian." "Can you believe that?" a few people murmured. Someone said, "Guardian." My mother nodded vigorously. "Feeding it." "Yes. Imagine. My own father trying to take my child from me while I'm dealing with everything else. And Brielle here. She's loving the attention. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe right for a second. My little sister looked at me, then away. Like I was embarrassing her, my mother stepped closer and lowered her voice. But not enough. Stand up straight, she hissed. Stop looking pathetic. People are watching. My hands gripped the walker until my knuckles hurt. I wanted to scream that I was 16 and my bones were still learning how to hold me. I wanted to shout that I remembered her voice on the phone. The fountain. The laughter. The click of that screenshot. I wanted the whole room to know what it feels like when your mother chooses convenience over your life. But the words wouldn't come. Only heat and shame, and a sudden hollow calm. Grandpa Ray leaned in. Baby girl. Let's go, he whispered. I nodded once. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I didn't give her the scene she wanted. I turned slowly, the walker clicking, my legs shaking with every step. Behind me, my mother called out, loud and bright like she was winning. Don't be so dramatic. Brielle, you'll regret treating family like this. I kept moving. I walked out of that fire station, into the humid Georgia air. And I didn't look back. I just walked away in silence. After the pancake breakfast, I didn't cry the way people expected. I cried the way bodies cry when they've held too much for too long. Quiet. In the shower, with the water too hot because pain is easier when it's physical. Then I stopped. Because something inside me finally accepted what my heart had been refusing to name. My mother didn't love me the way a mother is supposed to. She loved control. She loved appearances. And she loved my sister more because my sister made her look good. Once I admitted that, the rest became survival. Rehab got harder, not because my injuries got worse, but because I was no longer fighting to return to a home that didn't want me. I was fighting to build a life that didn't require begging for basic care. Grandpa Ray became my anchor. Every morning he was there, coffee in hand, talking to my physical therapist about new goals, like we were training for something bigger than walking. He taught me how to shift my weight so my hip didn't scream. He made me count steps out loud when my brain tried to quit first. When I collapsed one day from exhaustion and frustration, he didn't scold me. He sat on the floor beside me and said, "We don't quit. We adjust." A month later, I could walk short distances without the walker. 2 months later, I could climb stairs with a rail. My pelvis still ached when rain came in. But I was moving again. I was becoming myself again. That's when we discovered what my mother had been doing behind the scenes. One afternoon, Grandpa Ray came into my rehab room holding his phone like it was evidence. His face was tight, controlled. The way it looked when he was trying not to explode. "Listen," he said. He hit play. My mother's voice filled the room. Recorded and smug. I'm still her mother. He's not her real guardian. If you want this to go away, I need access to her settlement, and I need the guardian paperwork reversed. My stomach dropped so hard I felt nauseous. It wasn't a conversation. It was a threat. Grandpa Ray's knuckles were white around the phone. "She sent this to your father," he said, "and she sent it to your aunt. She's trying to build a narrative that I stole you. She's calling it New Guardian. Like it's some scandal she can sell." I stared at the wall for a moment. My heart beat loud in my ears. "She's trying to extort us," I whispered. He nodded. "And she's trying to pressure me into signing you back over." I thought of the court order, the stamped paper, the way my mother's face changed when she realized she was losing control. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared of losing access to what my injury might give her. Because there was going to be a settlement. The truck driver's insurance had already contacted Grandpa Ray's attorney. The hospital bills were massive. The rehab costs were climbing. And my mother's mind wasn't on my pain. It was on the check. That night, Grandpa Ray sat at my bedside and said, "I'm not going to let her do this to you." I swallowed. "I'm tired of running." He nodded. "Then we stop running. We build a wall." We met with a family law attorney and a civil attorney in the same week. They explained guardianship, medical authority, and financial protections like they were teaching me a new language. My name went on a protected account. My settlement was placed under court-supervised control. Any change in guardianship would require a judge, not my mother's tantrum. And for the first time, I felt something new under my ribs. Not fear, not shame. Power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't beg. The kind that just becomes unmovable. Before I continued to the moment my mother realized her new guardian recording had become evidence against her. Thank you for staying with me. If you've ever rebuilt yourself while someone tried to profit from your pain, your support through a like, comment, share, or a gentle subscribe truly means a lot to me. I'm grateful you're here. My mother didn't stop when she realized Grandpa Ray wasn't going to fold. She escalated. The petition arrived in a manila envelope stamped with the county seal. It was thick, formal, and written in the kind of legal language that makes you feel guilty before you've even spoken. Petition to restore parental guardianship. Emergency motion. Allegations of improper influence by Ray Dawson. My mother had turned my accident into a custody battle. She didn't serve it herself. She sent a process server to the rehab facility, like she wanted the humiliation delivered with maximum impact. The man walked into the lobby, asked for me by full name, and handed the envelope to the front desk while other patients watched. I held the papers in my lap for a long time, feeling the old, familiar weight of shame trying to crawl back into my chest. Grandpa Ray didn't let it. He read the petition once, jaw tightening with every paragraph, then set it down gently like it was something dirty. "She's lying," he said. "I know," I whispered. He tapped the page where my mother claimed I had been stable and that surgery had been optional. "This is the story she wants the court to believe," he said. "Not the truth." That afternoon, Dana's number was replaced in my life by two new ones, our family attorney and the hospital social worker who had helped secure the temporary guardianship. The social worker, Ms. Lacey, sounded exhausted when she answered. "I remember your case," she said quietly. "I remember your mother refusing consent." "Will you testify?" Grandpa Ray asked. There was a pause. Then her voice firmed. "Yes." That word hit me like oxygen, because I hadn't imagined how lonely truth can feel until someone else is willing to stand with you in public. My mother didn't just file paperwork. She built a campaign. She told relatives Grandpa Ray was kidnapping me. She told church friends he was mentally unstable. She posted cryptic messages online about fighting for her child and protecting her daughter from manipulation. The comments filled with supportive hearts from people who didn't know anything except what my mother wanted them to believe. Then she tried a different tactic. She showed up at rehab. Not in the lobby. In the therapy gym. Right when I was trying to walk a short stretch without my cane. My legs were trembling. Sweat slick on my forehead. And my therapist was watching my posture closely. My mother walked in like she owned the air. "Brielle," she said. Voice, sweet. "We need to talk." My therapist stepped forward. "Ma'am, you can't be here." My mother ignored her and came toward me, eyes glistening with practiced emotion. "Honey, everyone's worried about you. Grandpa is confusing you. He's making you think I didn't care." I gripped my cane harder. You didn't sign. Her smile tightened. You were in shock. You don't remember correctly. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. My therapist's face hardened. Then my mother leaned in and lowered her voice to a hiss. If you tell the judge he manipulated you, this can end. You can come home. You can stop embarrassing us. Embarrassing us. Even now, with my hip rebuilt and my body full of scars. Her biggest fear was not losing me. It was being seen. My therapist stepped between us. You need to leave, she said sharply. My mother snapped. This is my daughter. And my therapist said something I will never forget. She's a patient, she replied. And you are disrupting her care. My mother's eyes widened. Offended. Then she turned back to me. A voice suddenly cold. If you choose him, she said, don't expect me to keep paying for anything. I stared at her, stunned by the cruelty of that sentence. Then I remembered something important. She wasn't paying. Grandpa Ray was. The insurance, the settlement advances, the legal protections. She hadn't contributed $1. She was just threatening to withdraw something she never provided. My voice came out steadier than I expected. You can't take what you never gave. Her face flushed with rage. For a second, she looked like she might slap me. Right there in front of my therapist and half a dozen strangers. Instead, she spun and stormed out, leaving the gym buzzing with stunned silence. That night, Grandpa Ray sat with me at the small table in my room and said, the hearing is in 10 days. 10 days. My stomach twisted. But not with fear. With readiness. Because now we weren't just defending ourselves. We had evidence. The hospital call log, the surgeon's documentation, the social worker's affidavit. The recording my mother thought would protect her. Text messages. Timeline. And a truth that was finally ready to be spoken, where she couldn't talk over it. The guardianship hearing took place in a small county courtroom that smelled like old carpet and nervous sweat. No jury. No grand speeches. Just a judge. A clock. And the kind of quiet that makes every lie sound louder. My mother arrived in a navy dress and pearls. Hair curled. Makeup flawless. She looked like grief on purpose. My little sister sat behind her. Eyes down. Twisting a bracelet around her wrist. Grandpa Ray wore a clean button-down and his retired trooper posture. Shoulders squared like he was bracing for impact. He squeezed my hand once before we sat. Just breathe, he whispered. I sat beside our attorney, Ms. Klein, with my cane leaning against the chair. My hip ached in the weather. My stomach felt hollow. But my mind was clear. My mother's lawyer began with a soft, sympathetic tone. Your Honor, my client is a loving mother who was wrongfully displaced during a traumatic moment. Mr. Dawson has inserted himself into a parent-child relationship and has interfered with the natural order of this family. Natural order. I almost laughed. The natural order in my family was my mother choosing appearances over my well-being. My mother took the stand and dabbed her eyes with the same designer tissue. I was in shock, she said. Voice trembling. I never refused my daughter's surgery. I just needed time to understand. He exploited the situation. He convinced the hospital I was unfit. He's turned my own child against me. Then her lawyer pulled out the thing she believed would win her the room, the recording labeled New Guardian. He played it confidently. My mother's voice echoed through the courtroom. Calm and calculating. I'm still her mother. He's not her real guardian. If you want this to go away, I need access to her settlement. and I need the guardian paperwork reversed." The audio ended, and the silence afterward was brutal. My mother's lawyer cleared his throat. You hear the desperation in her voice. "Your Honor." She's begging to be heard. Ms. Klein stood slowly, and I felt the air shift. "Your Honor," she said, "we agree the court should hear this recording, because it is not desperation. It is extortion." My mother's face froze. Ms. Klein turned slightly toward the judge. "The petitioner states she never refused medical consent. Yet this recording contains a demand for access to the minor's settlement and a reversal of guardianship, framed as a condition for making this go away. That is not parental concern. That is leverage." My mother's lawyer objected, but the judge lifted a hand. Overruled. Miss Klein didn't stop. She introduced the hospital's documentation. The surgeon's note consent required immediately. The nursing note mother declined to come in. The hospital call log timestamps. Speakerphone. Refusal. Then, the social worker, Ms. Lacey, took the stand. Her voice was steady, professional. The mother was contacted. She testified. She refused to provide consent. She stated she was unavailable and instructed staff to call her after if the child did not survive. My mother's lips parted. Her eyes darted. She looked suddenly smaller, like her costume was slipping. My father wasn't present. He hadn't come. He didn't want to be seen. But in that moment, I didn't need him. I had truth. The trauma surgeon testified next. Clinical and calm. The surgery was not optional. He said, without it, the patient's risk of death or permanent disability was significant. My mother's lawyer tried to pivot, but she was under stress. The judge's voice cut in. Sharp. Many parents are under stress in emergency rooms. They do not refuse consent for their child's life-saving surgery. My mother finally snapped, her composure breaking. He made me look bad. The judge stared at her. "Ma'am, the record made you look bad." Then the judge turned to me. "Brielle," he said gently, "do you feel safe under your mother's decision-making authority?" My throat tightened, but my voice came out clear. "No, sir." The judge nodded once, as if that was all he needed to hear. "The petition to restore guardianship is denied," he ruled. "Mr. Dawson remains the legal guardian for medical and financial matters. The court will also impose a no-contact order except through supervised channels." Given the petitioner's attempts to pressure the minor and interfere with treatment, my mother made a sound like the air had been punched out of her. The judge continued. "Additionally, the minor's settlement and any related funds will remain under court-protected structure. Any attempt to access or redirect these funds without authorization will be treated as a serious violation." The gavel struck, and the story my mother tried to sell for months collapsed in one clean ruling. Outside the courtroom, my mother tried to rush toward me, crying now for real, grabbing at the air like she could pull me back into her control. Grandpa Ray stepped between us without anger, without drama, just firm. "Not today," he said. I took one breath, then another. "Thank you for staying with me through this moment where truth finally had a place to stand. If Brielle's story resonates with you, your support through a like, a comment, a share, or a gentle subscribe truly means more than you know. I'm genuinely grateful you're here." After the hearing, I thought I would feel triumphant. I didn't. I felt tired in a new way, like my body had been holding its breath for months and was finally allowed to exhale. The court order didn't heal my hip. It didn't erase the memory of my mother's voice on that speakerphone. It didn't undo the humiliation at the fire station fundraiser, but it did something that mattered more than anything else. It made the truth official. And once truth becomes official, the lies have to find somewhere else to live. Rehab continued. The pain didn't vanish, it changed. It went from sharp to dull, from constant to weather dependent. Some mornings I woke up and my pelvis felt like a stone inside my body. Other mornings I could move without thinking too hard. And those were victories I celebrated quietly. The way you celebrate when you've learned that loud joy invites someone to take it from you. Grandpa Ray never let me forget that I was more than my injury. He taught me practical things the way he taught me to ride a bike when I was little. How to read a credit report. How to question a bill. How to keep documents organized so no one could twist my story again. He taught me how to say no without apologizing. When my settlement finalized, the number was bigger than I could mentally hold at first. It felt unreal. Like money belonged to other people. Court protections kept it in a structured account, with releases for medical expenses, therapy, education, and basic living needs as I became an adult. It wasn't a windfall. It was a lifeline. And my mother wanted to cut it open. She tried 2 more times. The first was a letter from her attorney, suddenly polite, asking for family mediation and a path to reunification. The second was a handwritten card in soft, looping script. Brielle, I miss you. I've been praying. I just want us back. The word back made my stomach twist. Back meant under her thumb. Back meant silence. Back meant my pain being inconvenient again. My little sister showed up at Grandpa Ray's house one afternoon. Alone, she looked smaller without my mother beside her. Like a person who didn't know where her own thoughts ended and our mother's began. She stood on the porch and whispered, "Mom says you hate us." I leaned on my cane, heart pounding in a way I didn't show. "I don't hate you," I said softly, "but I won't let her control me anymore." My sister's eyes filled. She said, "Grandpa stole you." I swallowed. He saved me. My sister looked down at her shoes. Voice shaky. "Mom's mad. She says you're choosing him over family." I nodded slowly. "I'm choosing safety." She didn't argue. She didn't apologize either. She just stood there, trembling, then quietly asked the question that broke my heart in a different way. "Did she really refuse your surgery?" I held her gaze. "Yes." Her face crumpled. Not because she didn't believe me, because she did. And believing it meant something inside her childhood was cracking. I didn't push her. I didn't force her to pick sides. I just said, "I'm here if you ever need the truth." She left without a hug. But she looked back once, like she was seeing me for the first time. Months passed. I got stronger. I started classes online, then in person. I learned to drive again without panic. I learned how to laugh without checking if someone was watching. I got a part-time job at a local library because I wanted normalcy, not pity. Then, right before my 17th birthday, my mother finally showed up in person, not at a fundraiser, not at a courtroom, at the grocery store parking lot, of all places. She stepped out of her car with that familiar posture, like she still believed she owned the story, but her eyes were different, edgier, desperate. "Brielle," she said, voice trembling, "we need to talk." I didn't move. Grandpa Ray was beside me, steady as a wall. My mother swallowed hard. "The settlement. It's locked. I can't access anything. I'm your mother. This isn't right." There it was. The truth again. Not, "I miss you." Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I was wrong." The money. I felt something settle inside me, calm and final. "I'm not discussing finances with you," I said. Her face twisted. "After everything I've done." "You mean after everything Grandpa did?" I replied. She flinched like I'd slapped her. I looked at her and said the sentence I had been building for a year. "You don't get to rewrite what you chose." Then I turned away. Grandpa Ray didn't gloat. He didn't threaten. He simply walked with me. Shoulder close, as if his body could shield my future from her reach. That night, I stood in my room and looked at myself in the mirror. Scarred, stronger, still healing, still here. And I understood something that felt like freedom. Family isn't blood. Family is who shows up when your life is on the line. Grandpa Ray showed up. So I chose the life that chose me back.